So when you hear the name William S. Burroughs, you probably think of the Beat Generation, right? Maybe his super notorious novel, Naked Lunch. But what if I told you the godfather of the counterculture was also a sorcerer? A kind of Gnostic warrior who believed he was fighting a very real cosmic conspiracy. To even begin to understand that, we have to start with this single, really cryptic clue he left behind. Look at this line. He wrote this back in 1960. 5 Ehua, 8 Kumhu, insect time. Last date Mayan calendar, end of insect time. At first glance, yeah, it just looks like drug-fueled nonsense. But look closer. Last date Mayan calendar. How in the world was he writing about the end of the Mayan calendar a full 15 years before the whole 2012 phenomenon even got started? So what was it? Just a lucky guess? A wild coincidence? Or was something much, much stranger going on? In this explainer, we're going to follow the clues, almost like detectives, to uncover how Burroughs' own private magical war might have accidentally sparked a global pop culture prophecy. To solve the prophecy, we first have to understand the man. And to understand Burroughs, you have to get a handle on the personal hell that forged his entire reality. See, his worldview wasn't academic. It wasn't something he read in a book. It was born from pure trauma. Two huge events basically shattered his life. First, a horrifying sexual assault when he was a child, which he claimed brought a literal evil presence into his life. He said that presence would haunt him for decades, and it all culminated in the defining tragedy. In 1951, he shot and killed his wife, Joan, in this just horrifically misguided, drunken stuff. Okay, so this right here is the crucial point. Burroughs didn't see his wife's death in psychological terms. He believed an ugly spirit, a real evil entity, had literally possessed him and forced his hand. This was not a metaphor for him. It was a fact. So his life's work, his writing, it became this desperate, lifelong battle to fight that entity. And as he said, write his way out. So who or what was he fighting? Well, his personal ugly spirit was just one soldier in a vast, invisible army that he believed secretly runs our world. An army he dedicated his entire life to exposing and trying to destroy. You know, his worldview actually has a name, archontism. It's basically a modern, much darker version of an ancient spiritual idea called Gnosticism. And the core belief is this: our reality isn't what we think it is. It's a control system, it's a prison, and it was built by these parasitic entities. He called them insects or viruses, who basically feed on us. But here's the thing, Burroughs' version had this terrifying twist. See, the ancient Gnostics believed that beyond the prison, there was a good, true God who could save you. In Burroughs' universe, nope, there is no one coming to help. The prison is all there is. It is a do-it-yourself war for your own soul. And how do these archons control us? By creating the very structure of our reality. So for Burroughs, language wasn't a tool for communication. No. It was a virus from outer space that infects our thoughts. Time wasn't a constant. It was a linear trap to keep us stuck. And our bodies weren't really our own. They were just meat suits. These were the literal bars of our prison. Okay, so if you're trapped in a cosmic prison that's literally made of language and time, how do you possibly fight back? I mean, you can't shoot it, you can't punch it. You need a completely different kind of weapon. This was the central problem for Burroughs. How do you attack an enemy that is the very fabric of reality? You can't use normal weapons. You have to fight reality with reality. And to do that, he turned his art into a weapon. He developed a magical technique to attack language and time head-on. And this is the famous cut-up method. But it was never just an avant-garde literary style. For Burroughs, this was a magical ritual. By literally taking scissors to newspapers, novels, any text he could find, and then rearranging it, he believed he was scrambling the control signals of the archons. He was deprogramming the language virus to see what was really going on underneath. And there's a name for this belief too, hyperstition. It's the idea that fictions can make themselves real. So for Burroughs, writing wasn't just about describing the world. It was about changing it. His typewriter was his weapon, and every single word was a spell. So how does all of this solve our mystery? Now that we understand this whole Gnostic worldview and his magical techniques, we can finally go back and decode that strange prophecy from 1960. Okay, so here's the chain of evidence. In 1960, Burroughs writes his Mayan prophecy. He expands on it in his 1966 novel, The Soft Machine. Then, in 1975, two key figures in the New Age movement, Terence McKenna and Jose Arguelles, all of a sudden start talking about 2012. We know for a fact they both read Burroughs. But here's the smoking gun. In 1975, the very same year their ideas took off, both Burroughs and Arguelles were teaching at Naropa University. The idea didn't just pop out of nowhere, it was transmitted. And Burroughs' personal, paranoid war, well, it didn't stay personal. It leaked out, and it infected decades of counterculture. I mean, from David Bowie's cut-up lyrics to the whole chaos magic movement, from the cyberpunk of William Gibson to the fundamental premise of The Matrix, a simulated world run by non-human entities. His ideas are just everywhere. So let's look at that quote one last time. The junk way, in time, money, death. That's the prison of the archons. And the end of insect time on the last date of the Mayan calendar, that was his hyperspecial attempt to write humanity's liberation into existence. It was a magical spell, a declaration of war, he coded into a literary experiment. And that leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought. Burroughs lived his life as if his fictions could literally change reality. And he may not have predicted the 2012 apocalypse, but by writing about it, he inadvertently helped create the very phenomenon he seemed to predict. So the question really is, where does the story end and the magic begin?
Support Ian by 40